About a year and a half ago, the DC Extended Universe met its unceremonious end with the release of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom in November of 2023. And with the release of Superman in a few weeks, kicking off a brand new DC universe, I thought it'd be fun to look at the DCEU with a little bit of hindsight, a little bit of distance from the end, and rank these films from worst to best to really see, were these films any good? Was this franchise any good at all? Truth be told, I was going to make this video when Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom came out, and I completely forgot. And so now I'm doing it now with Superman coming out, which I feel like is a better time anyways, to, not just rush into the ranking, but give yourself some space, really allow yourself to digest this franchise as a whole. So let's take a look at the varying degrees of quality of the DC Extended Universe and rank these films from worst to best. All right, hear me out. While Suicide Squad is not the technical worst film on this list, it is for sure the most disappointing and why I have to put it in the bottom slot. Hear me out on this. Go and watch the first teaser for this film that they released at Comic-Con 2015. That trailer is one of the best trailers that I've ever watched. To this day, it is dark and it's really twisted and it really makes you understand what this movie is going to be. And I was so hyped up for this movie. And the movie that we got was nothing like it. And I'm aware that there was a lot of really negative studio involvement with David Ayer and what he wanted to do with this film versus what Warner Brothers wanted to do. And so I have to put the blame on Warner Brothers here and not David Ayer. But what came out was just a total mess and a total disaster. This film really can't decide if it wants to be dark and twisted or if it wants to be goofy and lighthearted. And funny enough, this tonal inconsistency is most exemplified in the soundtrack, which has everything from Rick Ross to 21 Pilots to Imagine Dragons to X-Ambassadors to Eminem to Panic at the Disco doing a Queen cover. What the heck is going on, dude? My mind is just blown when I think about how much of a disaster this film is and how nothing feels like it has a purpose. Nothing feels like it's there to do something compelling. The characters are just there. The story is just present, and it's also really dumb. Again, it's not the technical worst film on this list. I do think Margot Robbie's amazing as Harley Quinn, of course, and I'm so glad that she got her shot at redemption later on in the DCEU. But gosh, this film is awful. And my disappointment in this film, how much I was anticipating it in 2016 when it came out, it's why this film is bottom on this list. Well, it didn't take us long to get to the technical worst film on this list, Justice League 2017. What more can be said? On top of this film being a complete and total disaster, it's a film that was made with what I think to be malicious intent, where you have Zack Snyder who endures this horrific tragedy and has to step away. And so they just bring Joss Whedon in to change everything and just make it an Avengers film because that's what people want. They just want fun, goofy superhero movies. No, that's not what we want. I truly don't understand the mindset of Warner Brothers where you see what Zack Snyder has been building and you've allowed him to really communicate his vision in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And then he has to step away and you're just like, well, we got deadlines, so let's just completely change it up. Are you kidding me? That's so stupid. What are we doing, dude? What are we doing? I don't have to tell you why this movie's bad. You know it's bad. You know it's awful. It makes me mad every time I think about it. And I'm grateful that Zack Snyder got to see his vision realized in the end. But boy, it was a bumpy road to get there. Wonder Woman, 1984. Did you even remember this movie came out? Because I have to remind myself of that all the time. And I think that is such a testament to this film's quality. Nobody remembers it. It did nothing special. And granted, it did come out in December of 2020, which was, I think, historically the worst time to release a movie, period, where nobody was going to the movies. But still, Wonder Woman was so popular, and then they just kind of shoved this sequel out into theaters during the worst time to put out a movie. ever. And it's just like, it was nothing. It was kind of a nothing movie. And aside from when this film was released and how memorable or not it is, it's just bland. And it's just the most cookie cutter kind of comic book movie that you could get. Like, aside from Pedro Pascal's Life is good, but it can be better. There's nothing really of note here. There was nothing interesting that happened with the characters or the story or the larger cinematic universe. It was just kind of nothing. And Pedro Pascal's character is really only memorable because of a meme. So can we really even, does that even count? I don't even know. Yeah, I completely forget this film exists often. And by the time I finish editing this video, I'll probably forget again. And here we are at the end of the DCEU with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This is just another one of those movies that is just so forgettable. Like, everybody knew that the DCEU was on life support. Nobody really cared about these movies anymore. And so for them to just kind of throw Aquaman 2 into theaters, again, it was just such an unceremonious ending to this franchise. It was just kind of nothing. And there's nothing really about this movie that stands out. I still do firmly believe that Jason Momoa is kind of perfect casting for Aquaman. Like, he really does capture what they were going for well with his character. His dynamic with Patrick Wilson's character is decent in this movie. It's fun enough to watch. But in terms of story, in terms of the actual character development, it's just nothing really to get excited about. And it's just like, you know, if you want to put on something colorful and something remotely interesting in the background just to second screen, I don't know. It's enough. It'll get the job done. But if you're seeking out like a great comic book film, this ain't it, Chief. Man, I really wanted Shazam! Fury of the Gods to be good. I really did. I was really rooting for it. And it just let me down, like a lot of DCEU films have. Again, it's another one of those films where it's fine for a one-time watch. If you just need something to watch, it's fun enough. You get the comic book action, you get some fun characters and some funny moments, and it's great, whatever. But do I remember anything that happened in this movie? Not really. Do I want to watch it again? Not really. It's just there, you know? And what makes Shazam! Fury of the Gods especially frustrating is because the first Shazam movie has this really rich identity that it really wears on its sleeve, and it's really confident in. It's confident in what it's trying to be. And Shazam! Fury of the Gods just doesn't commit to it. It feels like it's scared to do it again. It's scared to wear the emotions on its sleeve and to go the places that the first Shazam movie did. When you compare the two films side by side, there's such an obvious dip in quality, and it just makes the experience of Shazam! Fury of the Gods even more disappointing and more frustrating because I expected such great things out of it. And again, it's not the worst movie in the world. It's fine for a one-time watch, but I just could not help but feel disappointed, especially compared to the first film. All right, there's a few hot takes in this video, and here's the first one. Wonder Woman is not all it's cracked up to be. Now, I would not go to the extent of saying this is a bad movie. In fact, I think it's passable. I think it's fine, but there's so much that does not work here that really holds this back from really being a stellar comic book film. Now, some things that I think are really great about Wonder Woman. I think Gal Gadot in this film is really great as Wonder Woman, really captures that character well. I loved the different war elements. I loved the cinematography and the visuals in the first 2/3 of the film. I loved her dynamic with Chris Pine's character. They were really great together. It's a decent enough film. It's pretty enjoyable to watch, all things considered. But again, I think there's also a lot about this film that doesn't quite work. Like, you have really messy editing, you have a really slow pace, and it's a really long movie as well. The third act twist, of course, is terrible. The whole villain stuff is just whack. It's bad. So again, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's perfectly fine for what it is, but I think it doesn't quite live up to the potential that this film had. Although Hans Zimmer's theme for Wonder Woman is pretty fire. Aquaman is the perfect example of you get exactly what you expect. Like, you're not going to get something that's going to blow your mind. You're not expecting it to be anything revolutionary in the comic book film genre. Like, it's Aquaman, you know? You just want some fun action. You want it to be a fun little film, and that's all it is. Although calling it a fun little film is kind of antithetical because this film is really long, and sometimes the pacing does kind of hurt this film. But again, if you're having enough fun with it, you know what? Who cares? I think the two biggest strengths that Aquaman has going for it is one, of course, Jason Momoa's casting. He's so good in that role and just brings a lot of life and energy and humor and fun to this character. And two, the film is really visually stunning. The visual effects are great. The aquatic stuff is just fun and interesting and visually different. Like, it brings a different look to comic book films, something that we've never really seen before, which is worth watching, I think, just for that, just for how visually interesting it is. But again, I think it functions best just as background noise or just a fun little movie night with the family. You know what? That's all it needs to be, and I don't really want it to be anything else. Like, it's Aquaman. Come on, just give me something fun. That's all I want. Black Adam is a film I had been looking forward to for a long time leading up to its release, and you know what? Despite its flaws, despite how messy it can be sometimes, I had a fun enough time with it. Like, you can tell that Dwayne Johnson was just really passionate about this character. He was passionate about bringing this story to the big screen, and he made the film to appeal to Black Adam fans. He made it to be a crowd pleaser. And you know what? As a DC fanboy, it kind of worked on me. Now, is that because of how compelling the Black Adam story is, or is it just because I got to see Dr. Fate in a movie for the first time? Who's to say? You can probably guess my answer. But you know what? The film is made for the fans, and a messy plot and some subpar VFX, you know what? That's not going to slow me down from having a great time. I had a fun enough time with this film. Again, nothing to write home about, but it's a good time. Hot take number 2 on this list. I really love the Flash movie. Now, is it a masterpiece? Heck no. Is it messy? Very much so. Is it goofy? All the time. But did I have fun? You bet I did. Yeah, I can't deny how much of a blast I had while I watched this movie. I was just totally locked into its zaniness and its goofiness, and you know what? It charmed me. It worked for me. I loved that Michael Keaton was in this film. I think he actually plays a pretty decent role in this story, and he plays this character well. It was good to see him back. I thought the Supergirl character and the way she was used in this film was really, really cool. And surprisingly, there's some decent emotional heart in this film, and I think that's why I was able to connect with this film, and I had more fun than I expected to with it. There's the scene at the end where Barry travels back in time and gets to talk to his mom one last time before he goes back to the present, and it's this really tender moment that really seals up the entire film and kind of why everything has been happening. Like, you feel the emotions behind it, you feel the intentionality behind it, and I think it just totally worked on me. And I loved that there was more heart in this film than I was expecting. I really enjoyed that. And like, do I understand the negative reviews for this film? For sure. I totally understand why people don't respond to it. I just found that I had a great time with it. And that's all I can say. I'm content with that. You know, Blue Beetle is just the victim of unfortunate timing. You know, by the time August 2023 rolled around and this film came out, the DCEU was already on life support. The Flash barely made any money and had terrible reviews. Aquaman 2 was coming out in a couple months and was ending the DCEU. And then you're introducing this new character that most people don't really know about. But I don't know. I found Blue Beetle to be pretty fun and pretty charming. On top of just a very interesting portrayal of the character and a cool modern take on the character of Blue Beetle, what really seals this film together is the family dynamic at the heart of this film. You really feel their dynamic as a family. You really feel how much they care for each other. And it makes you invested enough, at least, into the rest of the movie. And you know what? Again, it's not trying to be anything crazy. It's not trying to be anything that revolutionizes the comic book film genre. It's just trying to be a fun, lighthearted, down-to-earth, charming superhero film. And I'm content with it being that. And I think it succeeded in doing that. Y'all ready for hot take number 3? I love Batman v Superman. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this movie, and I'm not going to go over everything here. But I do want to hit some highlights, some things that I really love about this film. First, I think the core conflict of this film is really impactful. I think the clash of ideals is really powerful. You have this symbol of hope on one side who is constantly being forced to make tough decisions, constantly being pinned as the bad guy. And then you have a man that's filled with rage and pain and is trying to bring justice to a world that didn't give him justice. And it's this really powerful clash of ideals. And there's a lot of comparisons to Captain America Civil War, and I don't know why that is, because they're very different conflicts. Like, I think people just compare the two because it's two superheroes fighting each other. And, like, it's deeper than that. And I think what Batman vs. Superman sets up to do is different than Captain America Civil War, and I think it's better off because of that. And I think that's just what makes this film work for me. Like, you can criticize other elements of this film. I might agree with you with some of those criticisms, but I think at the core of the story, that conflict really does work for me. It really is compelling for me, and I just love watching this film, and I think it's a very interesting and different take on Superman and on Batman, and I just think it works here in this context. Oh man, now we're talking, dude. Shazam! This is what the DCEU needed to be all along. I think the DCEU thrived when it wasn't trying to build this large cinematic universe like Marvel was doing, because it very clearly came off as they're just trying to copy Marvel's formula to success. And DC is different than Marvel and needs to take a different approach than Marvel. And what I think works the best about Shazam and some of the best DCEU films is that while it fits into the larger DC universe, it's not trying to be the next puzzle piece in the large story. Like, Shazam is just a really down-to-earth character, and they tell a pretty down-to-earth story about him, and I really appreciated that. Also, as somebody who grew up in a family that fostered a bunch of kids and has 5 adopted siblings, the themes of adoption and found family / blood family, they're really compelling, and they're really well done here. Yeah, man, I just think Shazam rocks. I think this film is funny and entertaining. Zachary Levi is so perfect casting for this character, and at the same time really nails the emotional elements of this film, really captures your heart by the end of it, and it strikes the perfect balance between the two. And here we are at the beginning, and boy oh boy, Man of Steel friggin' rules, dude. It not only delivers on the action and the fun and the filmmaking, the core ideals of this film are just so strong and so necessary, and I think captures what Superman represents. The core ideals of this film are such a standout. The ideas of hope and doing whatever it takes for the betterment of all. Like, it's the best elements of the Christopher Reeve films, and I love that they translate over into this new adaptation, this different take on the character. I think it's just super evident in this film that Zack Snyder really cares about these characters, cares about this world, cares about the ideals and what these heroes represent. And I wish that Zack Snyder got to do more within the DCEU, because clearly he had a vision. He had something to say with these movies. But you know what? The 3 films that we got from him, I'll take them. They're great. I'm in the midst of my Superman marathon right now, and I'm just so eager to get to this one. It's been a little while since I've watched it, but gosh, this movie's great. I love it. Heck yeah, it's redemption time, baby. The Suicide Squad. Holy crap, what an absolute banger. I love that this film just establishes what it's going to be right away. You get the tone right away, and it never deviates from that. It sticks with this kind of dark, twisted sense of humor and this goofiness, but the twistedness works within that goofiness. Like, it's a unique kind of comedic take, and I love it. I think it just works perfectly. I love how unexpected this film is. Like, you never know what's going to happen at any point, whether it's going to be somebody dies or something out of the blue happens. Like, I think of the Harley Quinn little side plot where she falls in love with that dictator guy, and then all for her to just be like, nah, you're worse than I am, and just starts killing everybody. I think that's just awesome. It's so great. Yeah, more than anything, this film was just a blast, man. The new characters are just so fun, and they have a surprising amount of depth and heart to them, something that James Gunn, I think, captures so well in almost all of his films. But yeah, this film just rocks. It's so good. I love it. It's a banger. The one true Suicide Squad film. Boy, if you thought that I didn't have one more hot take up my sleeve, you're mistaken. I can't explain it, but I love Birds of Prey. I think the best way to describe why I love this film so much and why this film just totally worked for me is Birds of Prey is to Harley Quinn what the first Deadpool movie was for Deadpool. Like, it's the first true portrayal of this character that just perfectly captures who this character is at their core. And man, this film just has so much fun to give. The action sequences are electrifying and so well produced. The comedic bits work really well because you know who Harley Quinn is as a character. I think Ewan McGregor as the Black Mask is just a really interesting villain, and he has a different take, and he fits this film really well. I love Birds of Prey. I know it's kind of a hot take. I don't know why, but I just think Birds of Prey really works. And I think if you view it in that light of like what the first Deadpool movie does for Deadpool, I think it really captures why I love this film. Like, it's the true Harley Quinn show, and I love it. I think it's great. Yeah, none of you should be surprised. Zack Snyder's Justice League has just got it, man. It's just it. It truly does feel like the only version of this film that should exist. And I am absolutely shading the 2017 theatrical cut. It's an abomination. It should not exist. I just love the context and the depth that Zack Snyder keeps here. And, did it have to be 4 hours? Not necessarily. But you know what? I'm glad that his vision just got to be realized. And he got to do everything he wanted to do with the Justice League and more. Like, it's just fun. It's great. This is what we need, is artistic vision brought to interesting comic book stories. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking for. And honestly, this film really helps recontextualize Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and perfectly plays into that storyline, and that, I guess I'd call it a trilogy. It plays into that perfectly. It's everything that it needs to be. Yeah, I just love what this film did with all the characters. I love that Steppenwolf had an actual role to play instead of just like this weird villain that nobody knows about. But I loved him serving Darkseid, who's one of my favorite comic book villains ever. And it was so cool to get to see him in live action. I love what this film does with Cyborg and with The Flash. It's just, man, it's great. Man, I freaking love this movie. I'm so excited to watch this at the end of my Superman marathon before I go see the new Superman. I love this movie. I love it so much, dude. And there you have it. The definitive final DCEU ranking. Rest in peace, for real, for real. Let me know how you'd rank these films down in the comments below. Seriously, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think I'm wrong, I have some hot takes with DC, let me know. I want to hear what you think I'm wrong about. Maybe we can start a nice, lovely discussion down in the comments. Like I said a couple times, I'm currently working through all the Superman films. I just finished the Christopher Reeve films. I'm excited to watch Superman Returns. I haven't watched that in almost 20 years, and so that's going to be fun to watch. Then I'll watch the 3 Snyder films. So really excited to dive into all those. You can for sure be expecting a Superman ranking when the new Superman comes out. I'm really excited to just finish up this marathon. So be expecting that in the near future. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.